My name is Aaron Crumbley, and I started working at Galactic Quest in 2025.
What brought you to Galactic Quest?
The babes, of course. All the girls I was going to be getting. Word on the street was, if I worked at Galactic Quest, I could have 7 girlfriends a year. At the same time. And right now I'm up to 0. So I'd like to say that rumor is a lie. Don't do it. What brought me to Galactic Quest was the sheer amount of fun that we have. I knew that Galactic Quest was a place for fun and brought joy to the community, and I wanted to be a part of that. I saw people light up, waiting in line for their comics and their games and their card games, and the children seeing through the window, seeing the children's section. It was a wonderful experience, and I wanted to be part of the community that Kyle has curated over these 35 years. So what I was doing before Galactic Quest was I was working at a place called Bricker Builds. It's a Lego sculpture company, and I was traveling the country for a year and a half, going Lego show to Lego show, displaying Marvel, DC, Pokemon, Digimon sculptures that were all made from Lego artists for kids and families to enjoy. Also, they could buy the sets and then build them themselves. So I have been heavily involved in our Batarangs, our Lego Batarangs, and selling them to kids who are Batman fans, and watching people freak out at our full Spider-Man bust of Lego that cost $750, but some people were like, I need that in my kitchen or living room, and they buy it and they build it and they're like, this is the best thing ever. So I've been working with DC and Marvel fans, Pokemon fans, any main pop culture IP for a long time, and have traveled and seen people from all walks of life, that love DC and Marvel. So I feel privileged in that aspect, and then I just kind of brought that same energy to Galactic Quest behind the counter. So even if I didn't know everything going on in those worlds, I still knew they cared, and I still treated them like, oh, they're a DC fan, oh, they're a Marvel fan, oh, they're gonna love this, and try to point them in the right direction. And if I didn't know, I'd ask someone that did. I used to work in film, yes. I worked in locations, and before locations, I worked as a casting assistant for Tyler Perry. And before I was working for Tyler Perry, I was a stand-in, which is like someone that looks enough like the actor, has the same hair color and the same height, so that the camera team can practice shots for a movie or TV show before the actual actor comes in and has to redo the thing 7 times while the camera team's working on lens changes or whatever they gotta do. Usually in film, you have to be adaptable, you have to be quick, and you have to be quirky enough to get around. You also know how to deal with people, and you can get things done even under stupid amounts of social pressure, because it's not life or death, but they'll treat it like life and death, and you just have to adapt to that. That means you know how to adapt to the drama, and you know how to adapt to last second changes. And being adaptable in my life has been nothing but beneficial, and I think it's what I think is kind of like the basis of who I am. I've had so many different jobs and so many things happen to me. I think being adaptable is key. Being at Galactic Quest, I specialize in Pokemon. I was the Pokemon expert of Lawrenceville. Pokemon is something I've known for my entire life, ever since I was able to get a Game Boy Advance in 3rd grade playing Pokemon, and secretly playing all through high school and college. I've just always loved it. That also feels like home to me. I was able to play with friends, and I think the community of the game is also what kind of kept me staying there. I didn't know much about the anime. I didn't watch a lot of the anime, but the games I knew very well, because that's what I spent my time doing. And so when people bring in their old collections or they're asking about the new cards, I am all about it. I still have my collection of cards since I was a kid. I love seeing kids get excited about Pokemon cards, because that's exactly how I was then and am now still. So I love Pokemon mostly for the fantasy battling your friends in real life. So it's a mixture of fantasy fun battling and tactics meeting my friends. So any game that I can play with my friends will then be my favorite game, because I'm playing with my friends. And Pokemon is something so easy to get into, and there's so many varieties of creatures that you can battle with and love. I think that's the truest answer is I like the character design, I like the art, and I like the friendship and how it ties with being competitive and also trading and just collecting in general. I think it hits all the niches that it needs to. When I first started, it was the beginning of 2025. The Pokemon set called Prismatic Evolutions had just dropped, and it was the set that changed the modern era of Pokemon. People were coming out of the woodworks to get their hands on that product, even if they haven't bought Pokemon cards in 10, 20 years. They were like, oh, this set is valuable, I want to get back in. So we saw a rise including myself, in the hobby in a stronger increase in the interest of Pokemon since 2016 when Pokemon Go came out and the whole world was back on fire. But this is something that's more tangible, and this is something that you can continue to collect and battle with, where Pokemon Go had a really big swell and the game wasn't quite where it was supposed to be, and then there was a drop off. Pokemon cards overall, people can play the games, and we were hosting games in Buford for a little bit there. And people love the Buford store for the Pokemon collection there. They had so many singles, and Jason does such a good job at curating exactly what the community wants and wants that store to be. Each store has their own personalities, and Jason really has nailed what that store is in Buford. Buford is going to have a bigger constant community for Pokemon. If I was going to say there was a Pokemon store, I would say Buford is that store. Inventory is always split between the stores pretty evenly for the most part, from my understanding. But Jason is fluent in Pokemon. He loves Magic the Gathering. He's a card guy. I'm a card guy. Jason's a card guy. We like cards, so that's what we do. That's our thing. So Jason has more expertise in cards and enjoys Pokemon, as a casual hobby. And I think for the community, that's who you want running a store, so they understand what you're bringing into the table. And then also for Galactic Quest's benefit, knowing which binders of Pokemon cards to buy or not buy. That's a big deal too, for margin's sake. So I think Jason is leading the Pokemon charge in Buford. I've always loved comics and the stories of comics, but no, I did not continue to read them for a very long time. I had them as a kid. I had some books, some trade paperbacks of Batman. I love Batman and Spider-Man. Those worlds are really fun, but if I had to choose one between the two, I'd choose Batman. I'm a DC guy. I like the grittiness of Batman. I like the fact that he doesn't have superpowers, except he's just a billionaire that knows how to fight because he trained with the monks, and he learned how to fight correctly, and he's very good and very disciplined. Obviously his story is tragic, but at the same time it's kind of a redemption arc. But Batman has always just been cool to me. Cool, dark, and mysterious, and can do anything, and I've always appreciated about that. As someone that does not read comics, working at a comic store, I rely heavily on Willow's expertise because he reads enough for 5 people. At first it was extremely daunting having to deal with 75 plus titles in a given week, and okay, which title's going where, who's doing what is this about, what is it, Over time I started to connect and appreciate the art on the books, and I think that had helped me kind of memorize where things go, and also the customer interactions really helped me remember where things go. I'm like, oh, Charles liked this book. Oh, this book is over here. But there's a lot of repetition in the comic book store, and that also helps, and I need that. I think if you are ADHD or chaotic minded, that repetition is only beneficial, even if it feels like a grind. What helps me coming back to Galactic Quest? It just feels like it feels like home. Like it feels like this is where my friends are, and I want to be where my friends are, and the work, you can take it seriously, and I do take my work seriously, but it still feels like I'm working with my friends. And you can have any job, but as long as you're working with your friends, then that's kind of what keeps you around. And I think both the customers have become friends, and obviously my coworkers have become friends. So I think it feels like a family operation. There's no big corporate overhead. I think small businesses are a better place to work for that. There's more chaos in small business, but big corporations can be very daunting and out of touch. It's all about the margins in here. Here it's about the community. So.